Alright, so we splurged and got a watering can. This is like $5 or something at Lowe's. And then we got a bigger one that was like $7. So anyway, so we are going to water these in the black trays. The marigolds are still pretty wet. We have one of these readers that does how moist the soil is, the pH level, and dark and light. I'm not really sure what the dark and light's for. But anyway, got this from Amazon. So it's a pretty cool tool, definitely helpful for measuring the moisture content of your soil, so that you can see if the soil is too wet, too dry, or just where it needs to be. So all of our marigolds were in the wet zone, so we don't have to worry about those. But these little tomatoes need a little bit more water. We're going to add some to them. Our basil. Just trying to get as close to the plant as possible without getting the leaves. We got a sprout in our Chinese giant. Whoop, let me just drown it real quick. No big deal. Just gonna add a little bit to the grand bell because I'm not sure if they're gonna sprout, but the soil was dry. So add some to our dill. That marigold was fine. And then to these chives back here. Alright, so what we're going to do today is we're going to... Oops, I forgot this tomato. Forgot you, little tomato. That's the last of our water. So these two tomatoes in the back here, we are going to transplant them from this to these buckets.
Get all those buckets.
So we're going to put one plant in each bucket. So we read online that to grow tomatoes inside, you need a bucket or a pot that's about 20 inches deep, or excuse me, 24 inches deep and 20 inches wide if possible. So your buckets from your like hardware stores, Lowe's, Menards, Home Depot, places like that, at least in the States, are about 24 inches deep. I don't know about how wide they are, but they're wide enough, so I think that we should be fine. We're going to put one plant in each bucket so that they have enough room to grow, because tomatoes can get pretty big. And what we read is to start them in like a starter like pot, like a shallow pot, so something like this that you get, so that they come in at the store, or something like this tray would work. So just something pretty shallow. As soon as they sprout, you let it sit for about a month, and then you transplant it. So those have been sitting there for quite a while. So we are going to go ahead and transplant those. Now we're actually going to do an experiment. We're going to do, where we're going to do one with...
No, we were going to do one with this stuff.
Oh yeah.
We picked up at Lanahaw up here in Omaha. And then we were going to try, so one of these are going to go in one bucket, and then Miracle Grow is going to go into another bucket. So this one that we got from Lanahaw says that you need to mix 1/4 cup per 5 gallons of potting medium, work in gently and water thoroughly. Apply every 2 months throughout the growing season. But the Miracle Grow one says you need a tablespoon and a half for a gallon and a half of water, and apply every 7 to 14 days. So we'll see what the see how it turns out. But both buckets, we're going to put Ultimate Potting Mix, and then obviously, like we said before, we're going to mix the Miracle Grow into one, and then the Dr. Earth Home Grow in the other one. These are not going to be transplanted. They're going to actually be grown completely under the light that we have. Just to test everything out.
Alright, so we got our tomatoes planted. So this is the Miracle Grow. And this, that is the Dr. Earth Homegrown. So that one we had to thoroughly mix the soil with the half cup of the Dr. Earth, which was this stuff here. And the Miracle Grow, we had to mix 1.5 tablespoons into 1.5 gallons of water. So this watering can right here is 2 gallons, so we just filled it appropriately. The Miracle Grow actually came with a measuring spoon, so the big end here is exactly 1.5 tablespoons, so I just tossed that in there. We just got the pot or the bucket wet. We already just soaked the soil, so we didn't use all of the water. And about every 7 to 14 days, we will continue to water that one. This other one, we only need to water or add more soil or more of the Dr. Earth about every 2 months. So we'll see how this experiment goes. As Ian said, we did add some cardboard to the bottom of both buckets. Cardboard is biodegradable. We do have some in our compost pile out back. So we just figured that one, it might help slow the drainage of the water, and then it'll also kind of add a bit of like a composting type thing in the bottom. So, and again, we did use just the straight up potting mix, which was in the red bag that we did get from Lanahaw, which is kind of like a garden center here in Omaha. They have all sorts of stuff for gardens and indoor, outdoor plants, things like that. And then we just did the 2 different buckets, or the 2 buckets with the different growing supplements in each. So these will be our indoor tomato plant experiments. Considering we do have the outdoor tomatoes growing, and then we've got our 3 that we're trying to get a little bit bigger before we transplant to the outdoor garden. So we're going to see how these go the rest of the summer into fall and winter. We should have some tomato cages coming a little bit later this summer, which will be good, especially when these get taller. They're going to need some support. So you can use tomato cages. Stakes would probably work fairly well, just depending on how big your plants are. We'll have to prune appropriately throughout the rest of the summer and fall and winter. And we'll see what we can produce and go from there. So we also drained 4 holes in the bottom of each bucket for drainage, just so that the roots don't get kind of bound and get root rot, so that the water can drain out of the bottom. Yeah, so that's kind of where we are now. So we will see how things go, and we'll keep everybody updated. We do have labels that we're putting on. These poles are actually left over from when we rebuilt our deck a couple of years ago. So we are just labeling each pot, just so we know obviously which one is which, as the plants continue to grow. So
What's today's date?
today is the 3rd of July. Tomorrow's the 4th.
007.
Alright, so we got our new setup. We had to move some of our plants down here. So we have our other grow lights. I think that was just like the nasturtium, some of the other like bee and butterfly mixed plants. Our basil is down here, and then our peppers are down there as well. So we just needed to make some more room. We've got our tomatoes up here. So, and they are labeled. So this is the Miracle Grow bucket, and the Dr. Earth bucket is back there. So again, we got our marigolds up here, our other plants. We just had to do some adjustment to how everything was set up. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. So in this table we got for free. I did a post on Facebook in our neighborhood group that we were just looking for some free, well, just gardening stuff in general. So, and a couple people posted in it. We got some of that metal fencing you probably saw in our garden video a while back, and then this table was for free. So it's kind of the cool thing about social media now is you can reach out for some pretty cool stuff. I know sometimes you will have to pay for things. We did offer to pay, but people just wanted to get rid of this stuff out of their garage. So we needed it, they didn't want it, so it worked out perfect. And then we did test the soil in our buckets. So this is the Miracle Grow, and it went right to wet. And then this is the Dr. Earth, and I don't know if you can see that, it's kind of bright, but it went right to wet. So there, yep, and oops, soil fell on the ground. Yeah, so that is our setup. We've got our Mars Hydro light up here. Again, that was an Amazon purchase. We just have it affixed to the ceiling in our garage. And these were also Amazon lights that we just got, we fixed to the side there. So you kind of just have to do what works best for you. This is the space that we have right now. We may try to utilize our basement at some point, but the garage is working really well, especially being that it's summer. We're in the Midwest, so I think our grow zone is 5.
I think so.
Yeah, I think we're grow zone 5. We do get some pretty harsh winters. Our basement gets pretty darn cold. It is a concrete basement. It's not finished. So we are probably going to be in the market for some heating pads if we want to continue growing in the winter, but right now, because it's summer, we are just utilizing what we have. So again, that's kind of our experiment. We're just kind of trying to see what works and what doesn't. Sometime soon, probably within the next week or so, we will be transplanting our marigolds and some of our other plants out to the garden. Marigolds, most likely. I'm not sure about the other plants yet. We might see if they continue to grow in the garage, but the marigolds will be ready soon to be transplanted to the garden, and then we'll do an update on our garden as well. We did have an issue of things being overwatered, so we have just been kind of letting that sit in the heat for the last couple of days. We have had some light rain, so hopefully it's still okay, but we will do some soil testing here the next couple of days or so, and just to kind of see how things are, and we'll just go from there. We did also get these Rubbermaid storage locker things, storage cupboards, I guess. We got them from my grandparents' house. My dad brought them up. We are getting a shed soon, so we're going to see if we can put these in there. They're just your simple Rubbermaid. They open, they're kind of facing inward, but they open with shelves in there, so we can store a lot of our gardening supplies and just a lot of our like chemicals and stuff that we use for the yard, like our fertilizers and weed sprays and stuff like that. So we're just going to use it for more organizational purposes. We should have our shed coming within the next week or two. So we'll do an update when that arrives. But these are the Rubbermaid cupboards, I guess, storage units that we'll try to put in there. And then we'll do an update on before and after of our garage and all of our organization and storage and that kind of stuff. So I'm pretty excited for that. We've kind of needed some better organization since we are limited on space in our garage and our backyard. It would just be nice to have something to store all of our stuff, not in the garage, so we can use it as a garage. So anyway, there's a quick update there for you. So here is our garden. We decided to do some last minute pruning. If I can get the camera to focus. There we go. Okay, so here's our garden. You guys have seen before. So these are actually some of the fencing stuff that we got for free through the Facebook neighborhood group. So it's not the Facebook Marketplace and it's not the Nextdoor app. Our neighborhood actually has a group on Facebook specifically for our neighborhood. So it's actually pretty cool. It only those of people who are in our specific neighborhood can join. So it only kind of limits you to just people in our area, which is pretty neat. I think these people were just up the street from us, so we were able to just walk there and get the fencing, the table. Being that it was heavier, they were also up the street, but Ian had to drive there to pick it up, so because it was a pretty heavy table. But onions are still doing pretty good. Tomatoes, they're actually not looking too bad. We do have our other plants down there. Some of them are actually coming up pretty nice, so I'm pretty pleased with that. Some not so much, but these was kind of a hope and a prayer sort of situation. So we've got our beans are looking pretty good. Our peas are still growing strong. And then we've got our corn. Our corn is actually growing. This one actually has 3 stalks at the base.
Not sure if that's good or bad.
Yeah, we're not sure if that's good or bad. There's a chance that the 2 outer stalks are taking nutrients away from this middle stalk here. I'm not 100% sure. I kind of wanted to see how it did because I was just curious. So we are leaving that one. The other corn are just single stalks here, and the corn that we replanted actually is coming up really well. So there's those 2, and I think we replanted 3 of them.
Yeah, this one.
But we do have 4. So I
that
think
might be grass.
Well, yeah, we're not 100% sure, but regardless, we've got 4 of something, 3 of which we're sure are actually corn. So I'm pretty excited about that. Our peppers are actually looking a little bit better, except for some of those in the middle, still looking a little sad, but that's okay. Some of the other ones seem to be thriving. That one's doing pretty good. That one's doing pretty good. Still
super wet though.
Still super wet in there, according to our reader. But our tomatoes, actually, I think they're looking a little bit better. I think the plant's growing.
Yeah.
So that's at least something. And again, we just have our simple chicken wire. Good advice from my cousin. We actually just set this up in a hurry before we left on vacation, and we came to find out that is actually a good thing that we had it, or that we left it this way, because it is a deterrent against pests and things like that, because it's not very stable. So just kind of another little tidbit there. But yeah, some of our peppers that Ian split are doing a lot better than they were. Some are still a little sad looking, they're a little droopy, but that's okay. Our marigold over there seems to be doing pretty good. And I think our marigold over here, it either got eaten or it just wilted.
I think it's been like that for a while.
Okay, I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, again, our onions are doing really well. Those are the red ones. We do have, this is a yellow, and then this is a yellow. So I'm not really sure about those, but our reds are doing really well. Yeah, tomatoes, the leaves are still curled, so it's likely that they're still just trying to dry out the leaves. Ian's going to do some pruning on our tomatoes. We actually just learned about suckers from his mom. So if you find a V, and then the stem in the middle is what you cut. And you want to try to get it as, when they're as small as possible before they grow too big. Ooh, I spy a green tomato. We've got some blossoms on here. But yeah, holy cow, we got a tomato in there. Look at that. I don't see any others, but hey. Oh, there's another one.
There's another flower, another flower, another flower.
There's another tomato right in there, a little baby one. So it smells like tomatoes over here, that's for sure. If you've ever smelled a tomato plant, that's what it smells like over here. Our basil also has a really strong basil smell as well, so yeah, we're just pruning a little bit of our tomatoes. I'm not really sure if we're getting any.
We need to get those tomato cages. These stems are starting to...
Yeah, we should be getting tomato cages soon. My parents are going back to our family barn in Minnesota, and they will be bringing us some tomato cages, so that'll be great for both outdoor and indoor. So our garage plants will need some at some point, but our outdoor ones for sure need some support. So they are getting big, and the stems and the leaves and whatnot are getting really heavy. So, but that's pretty much what we've got so far. A little more close-up of the corn. I mean, regardless of there being 3 stalks on one, it's growing pretty tall. I mean, it's rivaling the other big ones, so that's good. But yeah, we'll keep going. You can see our reader there, still wet, so we'll just keep letting it dry. We're supposed to get really hot these next couple of days. I think it's supposed to be like 100 degrees Fahrenheit here tomorrow. And the rest of the week, next week, is supposed to be like upper 80s to low to mid 90s, maybe even upper 90s the rest of the week. So it's going to be hot. So hopefully that helps our poor little plants and helps the soil dry up a little bit. We did end up keeping the grass on the garden. We were thinking that it was helping lock the moisture in, so we were going to remove it to see if we could help the ground dry up a little bit, but it's also really helping with some of our weed control. So we elected to keep it just for that purpose. There's still some weeds popping up here and there, which isn't a huge deal, but we're just kind of seeing how this goes. Excuse me. This is our first garden, so really it's just more of an experiment to see how things work, what does and what doesn't, and then we'll obviously try again next year. If we do get a little bit of production this year, we'll be happy with that. If we don't get a whole lot, not a big deal. We'll just keep trying. The more we grow in our garden, the better the soil will get, and we'll be able to produce more fruits and vegetables and stuff next year. So we briefly just talked about, so the other tomato plant behind Ian has a couple flowers on it. So we were doing what my cousin refers to as show not grow. So you want to, or grow not show. So you want the plant itself to grow, but you don't want it to show fruit yet, or vegetables in this case. I guess tomato is a fruit, but so we're actually going to keep the flowers because they're up towards the top, and we're going to trim the lower plants. You don't want to have plants touching the ground. So there's one over here that we'll have to trim. Some of these beans we'll have to try to raise up a little bit. So we're going to try to trim some of the lower branches on our tomato plants and see if we can continue to get it to grow taller. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So yeah, we definitely want to continue to grow, not show. And just kind of see where things go from here. So there's one thing to keep in mind. Some people want to get their production right away, so they'll just let their plants do whatever they do as soon as possible. We're in the experimental phase, so we're just kind of seeing again what works and what doesn't. So we are electing to do the grow not show in certain parts of our plants. So we're trying to keep the bottom from touching the ground and being too heavy, and just continuing to let it grow taller. So we will continue with our pruning, and we'll give you an update as soon as we can.